Beyond 3D.
Good evening, one and all, and welcome to this week's edition of Beyond 3D. Matt and Clint here with you. Hopefully everyone had a great last weekend and thoroughly enjoyed listening to Duncan Rhodes wax philosophic about everything esoteric out there, which was really a lot of fun. And don't forget that the conference, the Nexus conference, will be next in a couple of weeks, actually, on the 18th to the 20th of June up on the Sunshine Coast, and we will once again provide you guys with information about that conference on our Facebook page. So, Clint, how are you going this week?
In just the past 2 months, there have been 13 earthquakes over 6.0 on the Richter scale.
We better call Standeo and ask him about that. Perhaps where were they?
Worldwide.
Worldwide. So not just the Ring of Fire.
No, Papua New Guinea, but all the way across to Europe as well.
Oh boy, the Earth is speaking, as they say. But the other thing we are going to have to get into this week is a little bit about all the different things we've been seeing about the moon. Mm-hmm. What's been going on up there, or our chemtrail saga that we've been seeing this past week.
Chemtrails this week have just been out of control.
And the thing about, and I want to start there for a reason. I have noticed quite a few people in our area have been under the weather lately. I'm talking about people being in the hospital with pneumonia all of a sudden, coming out of the blue, and all of these things are starting to happen, and all of a sudden you and I look up in the sky over Mornington and different areas in and around the peninsula, and we start seeing what?
Chemtrails.
All over the daggone place. Yeah. And I was very, very intrigued by that, because you sent me some photos, and I started laughing because I looked up and I went, ha! I'll send you mine.
I'll give you the Wikipedia definition of a chemtrail. A chemtrail, according to the unproven chemtrail conspiracy theory. Yeah, it's not really a theory when you're watching it falling out the back of a plane. Long-lasting trails left in the sky by high-flying aircraft consisting of chemical or biological agents. Now, if we were to get Dr. Richard Miller on the phone at some point, I'm not saying we can do that today. You and I'd have to organise that in advance. I'm pretty sure he could give us an entire slew of components of what's made up in that biological agent.
Oh, I can guarantee it. But it's not pretty. And who was it? Oh, I got it. Prince, who they just found out died from an overdose of an opiate.
Sure.
Yeah. He was mentioning the fact that he used to see the chemtrails in the sky, and all of a sudden people started acting angrier with each other.
It's a chemical cocktail that they're dumping in the sky. Why they're dumping it in the sky, I cannot give you a definite answer because I don't know. But it does everything from changes people's biochemistry to the biosphere of the planet to it alters the weather. We're talking about a lot of heavy metals being dropped in the upper atmosphere.
Yeah. It's not fun. I used to remember back in the States, they used to go through this period of time over the summers where they would say there was a mosquito outbreak or something like that, and they would tell you they're about to spray your neighborhood. And the planes would come over and do their thing. And
population control?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Then they'd come over and do their thing, and everybody would be none the wiser. They thought that they were just...
Barium and aluminium salts, polymers, fibers, silicon carbide, and... other heavy metals, but why? Why would they be dumping this toxic spew into it? It was beautiful skies last couple of days.
Yes, it has been.
Beautiful blue skies here at home, and both of us put photos on our Facebook page of chemtrails all week.
Why, though? What is going on? Well, we're going to have to... You know what? That's what this show is about. We're going to have to look into it. See what we can find out.
Yeah, I'll just... file that away with everything else with Cern and HAARP and...
Oh, Cern. You mentioned last week that there was some interesting things going on with Cern, so you have to bring it up again.
Well, I did open the show by saying that there was 13 earthquakes over 6.0 on the Richter scale over the past 2 months.
Right.
There's a lot of conjecture out there at the moment that says that Cern has a lot to do with it.
Okay.
Well, Cern is it's like a magnetron that it creates a vortex, a magnetic vortex. So it has to do something to. That's what it was. Billy Hayes, couldn't remember his name. Billy Hayes, ex-HAARP engineer. This is his explanation for what's occurring at Cern at the moment.
Every time the Cern makes a rotation with its magnetic fields, it is endeavoring a cyclotronic movement. It also creates a cyclotronic resonance. Well, let's put it this way. Create a massive amount of power. You get a scorching of the screens and grids and charge it up with positive and negatives and store it. Then you have a way to initiate a signal through this. Then you have an amplifier. And when you get to a point where you saturate that amplifier, it goes into a plasmatic effect. And in this plasmatic effect, you get a cyclotronic movement, which is mainly speaking, it's a vortex, an electronic vortex. It goes round, round, round. Exactly. Once it reaches a point where it is totally loaded, then you are into the torsion field remedy. And this is a whole field of energy by itself.
Beyond 3 D.
Now, there was a guy you used to listen to, or no, there was a person you used to watch the videos. I think it was on YouTube. You had given me the YouTube address to this guy one time before, and he was a follower of Cern and what was going on. Being that I'm correct about that, I know that I saw a video that they had just put out in the last few days that was talking about they could explain why the ice caps were melting at a certain rate or something like that. It had something to do with Cern and what was going on.
Before Cern came, look, Cern's been around for a long time, but before a spotlight got put on it, the big bad was HAARP.
Yes, it was.
Prior to that. Now, like I said, I did a bit of digging this week and had a look. There's some strong correlations between the two. Like, it's like glove in hand, HAARP and Cern. So DARPA has a lot to answer for when it comes to HAARP anyway.
DARPA. That'll be around forever. They're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to do anything. They're going to do... Well, actually, they're going to do what they want is what they're going to do. But interesting things. Let's get back to this. So we have chemtrails in and around our area in Australia, which I personally have not really seen very much of ever in the 18 or so years I've been down here.
I saw my first chemtrail down here probably about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Haven't seen many since then.
But now all of a sudden, over a couple of days, they were prevalent. They were everywhere, at least where we were, that we could look up and see them and see what was going on. And I actually looked up and saw the plane flying. And, you know, that typical white military-looking thing that looked not quite nondescript. You couldn't tell if it was an airline or anything like that, but it was just hauling and leaving its trail as it went. So that was going on.
One of the I was with somebody at the time when it was flying overhead, and I said to them, "Oh, look, they're doing chemtrails again." And she looked up at the sky and said, "No, that's just someone skyriding." And I went, "Right, in a straight line, they're skyriding in a straight line." 4 days in a row. They're just do you know how much it costs to go up and skyride? Fortune, an absolute fortune. Nobody would go up there 4 days in a row and just pump out straight lines.
Well, for me, it was different insofar as when I looked up and a person said, "I know that's just the planes and condensation," and I said, "Really? When's the last time you saw planes fly in those different flight paths, one right next to the other, and then all of a sudden crisscross, almost like you're looking at a tic-tac-toe board?" I said, "It doesn't happen."
No.
At least not that we know of.
I don't understand why more people aren't asking that question.
I don't think people care, really. They just go about their business. They're going to work, and they don't bother to look up.
You care when half your lung collapses because your lungs are full of polymers and heavy metals.
That's why we were saying earlier, and that's why I said earlier, all of a sudden a lot of people are coming up with all these different flus. A lot of people are coming up with all these different pneumonias, and that's hospitalizing them. It's ridiculous what's going on out there, but what are people doing about it? They're not connecting the dots, let's put it that way, and it really gets frustrating because
people don't care about connecting the dots because right now there's an election going on in Australia, so that's and in America too. There's an election going on in both places right now.
Well, being that diversion is out there, what's going to happen is everybody in government and all the people in these so-called elitist societies and all these different compartmentalized little things are going to do their...
Look, Matt, a diversion.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
See how I did that?
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. End of it. So the other thing is, besides sickness, disease, being poisoned by governments, the other thing is the moon and everything that's been going on. We've been seeing a lot of videos lately now. It's easy to say you saw something on YouTube. It's a little bit different when someone you know actually points a telescope up at the moon and you actually get to see a base.
Well, I sent you a message this week and I said, "Where's the moon?"
You did?
Yes. It was a very clear night. I was outside and I saw nothing but stars. And I didn't realise that the moon was rising at about 1:15 in the morning that day.
That thing is an enigma wrapped in a, what is it? An enigma wrapped in a
puzzle,
wrapped in a
riddle, wrapped in bacon.
That's exactly what it is as far as I am concerned. I still don't understand why people look up there and just take it for granted that this is the only body in this solar system that does not rotate in such a way where you can see it from all sides. It literally just stays in that one zone where you can never see the back end of it. I just don't understand why people don't look more up at that and say, what is really going on here? And when you can take a telescope out and you look in this telescope and a person puts their camera in so they can film it, and they zoom in and zoom in again and then a third time to the point where you can see a crater, and then in that crater you can see what looks like a building with pipes coming out of it and all this kind of stuff. You go, wait a minute, what the heck is going on here?
Nature doesn't design in straight lines.
No, and nature doesn't design pipes that go into the ground either, coming out of buildings and smokestacks, especially when they're on a planet like the moon or a body like the moon up there. But most people don't bother to look long enough to be able to see what's going on.
And we can't see the backside of the moon either, can we?
No, we cannot.
So...
But they do have a satellite up there that can actually, that's far enough out that actually does get to see the backside of the moon, and when they looked at it, they saw some interesting things.
You just broke my train of thought then. I was just about to tell you about the Black Knight, speaking of satellites.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one in about a month or two.
We'll go back to that.
Yep, fair enough.
So the moon?
The moon in and of itself, to me, most people are saying it's hollowed because a couple of times they've crashed satellites into it and it has rung out like a bell.
Yeah, I heard that too, that it ran
31 minutes one time, and then 2.5 hours another time when they did that. That I find interesting. What I personally have seen myself, I find very interesting. There are vids out there in Vimeo and YouTube that will show you different dots. That's the way they look in the videos, at least different dots leaving orbit and coming into the moon and going into craters and things like that. I think there's a whole lot of things going on up there that they don't want people to know about. Naturally, a lot of people have heard about the NASA photos that have been smudged from the Apollo missions.
They're not even trying anymore to hide it. They're just smudging large areas.
And the other day I looked at this. Now maybe it's just a trick of the eye.
This isn't their photos.
Yeah. There was a photo that was taken from Apollo 17, and they said it was just a blank canvas. It just came out white. But then when they put it through, I guess reverse engineered the daggone thing or something like that, there was a pyramid, a perfect pyramid, and looked like a factory structure next to it. But when I looked at this, and then you adjust your eyesight and try to look through your third eye, there was some very intricate patterns on the screen, on the television screen that I was looking at. So I can't say whether or not that was part of the actual photo I was looking at or just a trick of the eye, but I'll do a little bit of an experiment over the next couple of weeks and try to find out, because it's very interesting what they have found up there as far as photographic evidence is concerned. Buildings, structures, towers, domes, glass domes that have been broken, both sides of the moon, ships flying in and out of orbit, ships flying in and out of craters, all kinds of things going on up there, and most people don't recognize that. And the other thing I saw, which was really, really interesting, was a video from the guys over at Secure Team 10, and they put up a video that a woman had given them from Washington State, so the Pacific Northwest. And this woman took her telescope out and was just looking at a nondescript star. And as you watch this star, all of a sudden, in the top right quadrant of it, you see almost like a tethered energy surge coming through, and then all of a sudden it just pops off, and like a ship just takes off from this daggone thing after. So it's almost like when they're refueling a plane in midair, and the thing comes in, they tether it, give it the gas, and off it goes. This led to, in this video, and we'll link it up on the Facebook page. This video then went into what was going on around our own star, the sun, and it showed a similar craft.
I remember you telling me about that.
Doing the exact same thing. But when you look at this vid and you look at this craft, and you see the energy exchange between the star and this craft, and then it pulls away, you see the size of this thing and the makeup of it. You go, wait a minute, wow. This thing was about the size of 10 Earths. that was drawing energy off the sun, and then they have other ships that have done the same thing. It's a fascinating study.
You just said the size of 10 Earths, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
That's pretty big.
Which is pretty darn big. And this is the thing. And people really, I find it fascinating, and I think a lot of people would. Down here, we have an astronomical society where people can get together, go out with their telescopes, and they'll point things out to them. Take a telescope if you have one, point it at the moon, put a camera on it, and just record for about an hour. And then come back and take a look at it. I guarantee you'll see some really funky stuff going on up there.
Richard Hoagland.
Yes?
No, I just wanted to say his name.
Yes?
So if people want to look at any more information about structures on the moon...
He does go over a lot of that.
He goes over a lot of it. He's very, very passionate about it. Richard Hoagland. There's lots of stuff on YouTube about him if anybody wants to go and have a look.
He has a website called enterprisemission.com, so we'll put a link up for that as well. And the other thing that I've seen that was going on, oh, wait a minute, it was an interesting one as well, once again about space. What were they talking about? It'll come back to me. It'll come to me. But I thought about it and I went, that's very interesting as well. There's a few interesting things going on as far as our universe and this solar system is concerned. That's what it was. I figured it out.
Go.
No, you go first, because I can wait.
I was just going to say they're announcing more and more exoplanets these days. Like it's just normal.
It is normal.
Because it is normal. It is normal. But when I say like it's normal, there was a time when it wasn't.
Yes.
There was a time when if they announced that they found an Earth-like planet, it would have made front page news. These days, no one cares because
there's so many.
There's so many. But the reality is, a lot of people don't care because they know they'll never get to them. So.
Yeah, well, that's debatable. Whether they can get to him or not.
No, you and I both know how, but I'm talking about the average layman.
Yes,
in their small mind would go, well, I'll never go, so who cares?
Granted, that's a fact. But the other thing that was interesting was a person came out with a vid, and it was newsworthy as far as I was concerned, because what they can prove based upon, and you would know this because you're into this with the computers and with technologies.
Is it Tron?
No,
okay.
This is about Pluto and the fact that the photos that they released last year are actually about 3 years older than they would care to admit.
The work experience kit at NASA didn't file them properly.
But I found it interesting because if these things were taken 3 years prior, and that led to the fact that with most things, with technology and everything like that, they're 30 to 40 years behind anyway. We are.
Didn't somebody discover that? Like, call NASA out and say, hang on a minute, those photos were taken 3 years ago?
That was what I looked at. Yeah, somebody came out and basically said that, and I was very interested and intrigued because, that goes to the argument that we are so far behind in technology. Well, we're not really behind. They have only released technology that, in my opinion, is at least 30 to 40 years old. And we will have to... And that basically means, what are they really using in certain circles? I think more than anything else.
We won't know. We'll be having this conversation in another 20 years' time.
Well... There are certain people, we're going to definitely have to talk to Richard Allen Miller about this, but I'm specifically wanting to talk to him about what's going on underground. Because what is being stated is the fact that we have telephones and everybody is waiting for the new Samsung or new iPhone to come out. But that's old technology, at least 30 to 40 years old, and what they're now using is the holographic systems like you will find in Star Wars and stuff like that.
I think DARPA put that stuff together about 10 years ago. I mean, I'm looking at my iPhone here. I'm still on contract with it, and it's a piece of rubbish. I might as well get 2 cans and a piece of string.
That's the way it is now, but quite frankly, if you were to get the latest technology that were to come out, as far as I'm concerned, it's 30 to 40 years old.
It's 2 cans and a piece of string.
Yeah, basically that's what it is, and this is the whole thing. There is technology out there that is being used that can... I guess would blow our minds, but another thing I heard that was very interesting was even though they don't talk about it and they poo-poo it in scientific circles, what actually is being done is they are using telepathy, they are using remote viewing, and all of these kinds of things to really see what's going on. They're using it for spying purposes and things along those lines. So that's the latest. That's the latest military type news coming out of the United States. How remote viewing is really being used.
Remote viewing?
Yeah.
Ingo Swann?
Yeah.
I watched a little doco on Ingo Swann this week, and he talked about how he was given a series of coordinates.
Yep.
And he remote viewed those coordinates, and it was the moon. And there was sentient life on the far side of the moon that realised that he was remote viewing them, and they sort of at the same time went, no, see you later, and they shut everything down on him.
Well, there is, and I'll have to put a link up for this as well, there is a book, a PDF file that you can get on a book that he wrote about that specific topic on the moon and what he remote viewed. And you can read what was stated. The other thing about that is the fact that remote viewing is used in covert operations. And I was listening to a show in the States the other night, and a person was talking about the fact, and there's a lot of these guys in the States that just do podcasts, but they were all ex-military, that has stories about what was going on here, there, and everywhere. And one of the stories was about a remote viewer who decided they wanted to see if they could remote view Obama in the White House. And so what they did was they sat down, did their technique, got to the door of the Oval Office, and were pushed back.
That's interesting. So what are you telling me? The Oval Office had somebody there waiting for psychic attack?
In a sense.
Yeah.
But the thing that was really funny was the next day, this person got a knock on the door, and there were two feds standing there. And this was around the time where they were talking about shutting down the government, and they said, yes, government may shut down, but there are certain things in government that never shut down. Don't do that again.
That's really cool.
I thought it was fantastic. But what it means to me is that at certain levels of government, they recognize psychic ability. And they recognize that there are people out there that can use it in such a way that can be to the detriment of certain countries, or can be to the advantage of others. So we have to take a look at all of that and go, wow, very interesting. But when you start looking at this kind of stuff, it opens you up to what the possibilities really are. That is what matters the most. So, a lot of stuff going on around the moon, a lot of stuff going on around DARPA, Cern, and all those fun things.
Did you know there's a term for when you're totally positive something happened, even though it didn't?
Which is?
The Mandela Effect.
The Mandela Effect? Go ahead, explain why.
Beyond 3 D.
Okay, so the Mandela Effect is a theory that was put forth by a writer who works very closely in the paranormal field. Her name's Fiona Broome. She shared a false memory with a group of friends about Nelson Mandela actually dying in prison. And it's believed that this term, the Mandela Effect, is what happens when you or certain people move from one parallel universe, effortlessly slide into the next one. And what happens is there's little glitches, little things are different, and some things aren't the same, and some things are the same. And the Mandela Effect has been coined because Mandela dying in prison was... that was Nelson Mandela dying in prison, was a very, very strong memory that she had, and she couldn't find one person that remembered that. And then she found a group of other friends that went, yeah, he died in prison. I remember when that happened. And then another group of friends said, are you kidding? He died at home. And there was these two very conflicting different stories about what happened. And if you want to Google the Mandela Effect, it's now gone as far as movies, little scenes in movies now have been changed and are different compared to what they used to be. That's okay, you can type. Keep typing. You're Googling it now, aren't you? Yeah, so I'll give you an example. So, in Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
So when Luke Skywalker confronts Vader, and Vader tells him that he is his father.
Yes.
One version of that film has Vader saying, Luke, I am your father. And there's another version that Vader just says, I am your father. And there's these two totally different camps of people that say, no, he says, I've got evidence of him saying that, and I've got evidence of him saying that. Jaws as well, the film Jaws, when they say we're going to need a bigger boat,
Yes.
There are people out there that swear black and blue that it was, you're going to need a bigger boat. But they have the actual evidence of the two different versions. So it's very crazy. The Mandela Effect. When you slide sideways into a parallel universe.
Yeah, well, you can do that. I know that. Been there, done that.
But you don't. But is it possible to know if you've come back?
There's got to be a way.
No. Like I could have slid into a parallel universe this morning and not even known.
You might not be aware, but then something triggered the fact that... What did you just say right there? You might have.
I might have.
So therefore...
I'm not aware of it.
You're not aware of it. But
right.
At some level, you should be.
At some level. Depends on how switched on, turned on, and tuned in you are.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting indeed.
Beyond 3 D.
There is a new, not really even technically new, it's been around for a few years now, or at least been in the works for a few years, type of computer system, and it's a quantum computer system. It's a specific quantum computer system, in fact, called D-Wave. Currently, places like Google, for instance, are using the D-Wave computer as a way to track everything, try to get everything under control with the search volumes that they get, and a way to be able to return the searches faster, and just, the computing power that they have with it. Now, the D-Wave computer is a very, very powerful computer. Normal computer systems, unlike a regular computer system, which essentially it figures everything out through ones and zeros. So on or off, when the power is going to it, it's on. When the power is off, it's a zero. So ones and zeros, that's how it figures everything out. That's how it does its calculations. And our computer chips, although they can calculate things at millions of calculations per second for the really nice, fast computer chips, they're still very linear in the way that they do everything. It's one by one after the other calculation is done, and it's all based upon whether or not it's 1 or 0. And so because of that, it's limited in its scale, because you can only do so much with the linearity of it. The only thing that you can do from that point is just increase the speed, but otherwise it is just ones and zeros. Now, a quantum computer, especially this D-Wave computer, what it is capable of doing is figuring out things in 4 different ways. So again, ones and zeros. So 1, 0, those are 2 of its methods of doing things. It can also compute things by 1 and 0 at the same time, or neither. So this gives it a very powerful capability of doing calculations. It can figure out 4 calculations essentially at the same time as a potential. The D-Wave computer, just as an example of its processing power and speed, is capable of processing over 100 million times faster than our fastest normal computer system, our fastest non-quantum computer system. 100 million times faster. It is capable of calculating within a matter of seconds a calculation that would take a regular computer system 10,000 years testing benchmarks that have been done on this computer system. So what would normally take our computer systems, the one that you have sitting on your desktop right now, if you're listening to this on your desktop or whatever the case may be, it would take 10,000 years for that computer system to figure out this certain set of calculations, whereas the D-Wave computer is capable of doing it within a matter of seconds. That's an incredible amount of computing power. Absolutely amazing potential for its processing abilities. It can also calculate, unlike a regular computer system where it calculates in a linear fashion forward, it's capable of calculating backwards as well. So forwards and backwards, up and down, in 3 dimensions basically is what it's capable of doing. This is an amazing piece of technology. It's huge as far as its potential goes. Now, one other place has this D-Wave computer hooked up as well, and that other place is Cern. One of the other portions of this computing system as well is that it has in storage the amount of bytes that it has in storage are actually greater than the number of subatomic particles within the known universe. This is a vast, vast computer system. So again, CERN also has the same computer system. Now, CERN, in its doings, may have actually connected the quantum computer system to the way that reality works. They have essentially quantumly entangled the subatomic particles of the universe to their quantum computer system. They are able to tweak reality in whatever method they want to tweak it. Now, one of the things that I see happening with the Mandela Effect is how the Mandela Effect may be the first phrase of reality that we're seeing happen. So, some people ask, why are we only seeing these things change in a small way? Why are these just small changes, galactically speaking, right? Or even globally speaking? So why are these small things occurring? You know, the mirror on the wall being changed to magic mirror on the wall. Why these small things? Well, if you think about clothing, for instance, one of the things that happens with clothing when it starts to get frayed and when it starts to unravel is you start seeing the little fuzzies appear on the corners or on the collar or, you know, the shirt. And, you know, little frays will appear. And those frays are the beginning stages of the eventual unraveling and decay of that piece of clothing. So, too, I think the Mandela Effect and the things that we're seeing with it are the first phrase in the fabric of reality that we have surrounding us. And it may be that yes, there's small changes now, but eventually it might get to the point where reality itself comes completely undone because of this decay and the fraying of reality that's going on. We're seeing the first stages of the eventual unraveling of the entirety of reality. And again, this whole D-Wave thing, because we know that CERN is not truthful about the things that they're doing. And CERN has been messing with some stuff that do not need to be messed with.
Beyond 3 D.
What else has been going on this week?
I saw some wicked UFO footage this week.
Where?
On the internet.
Mm-hmm. No, I know that, but where was it? What was it about?
No, it was Australia. Over a beach. Mm-hmm. Give me a second, I'll see if I can find it and I'll put it up on Facebook.
Yeah, there's been a few interesting UFOs being seen lately. The couple that stick in my mind, and the one that first came to me is one from the States. And this one is one of the clearest vids I've ever seen. And quite frankly, it reminded me of Star Trek because this ship was just sitting in the sky and then all of a sudden lights came on around it in a circular motion and it was counterclockwise and it took off, and as it took off it was almost like that sonic boom where you can see the cloud or the vapor around it as it goes through and disappears, and that's exactly what you saw in this vid, which was quite fascinating to look at. There were a few others that have been, well, we talked about the moon already, but there's been a few that have been traveling around the moon, but as far as Earth orbit is concerned, there have been some very interesting looking things lately, and it seems that a lot of the videos are starting to become a little bit clearer. Maybe that high definition is kicking in a little bit, but you actually can make out it's not just a dot in the sky anymore. You can see features, you can make out lights and structure and what's going on up there. And a person like you who knows about the video editing and things like that, you can see whether or not it's been photoshopped or whether or not it's been rendered or something like that.
I always look, I always, every time I see a piece of UFO footage, I do not focus on the UFO. Probably in my first 2 or 3 viewings, I do not focus on the UFO ever. I always look at the camera angle, the light, the time of day, what's going on. You listen to the urgency of the person that's filming. Usually when somebody's being genuinely urgent,
Yeah.
And you can tell by the tone of their voice, the cadence, the way they pronounce their words, or the speed of it. All those little things I always look at. This particular piece of footage the other day that I saw, it was a line ball. I couldn't call it as genuine or fake. It was just one of those ones I just went, yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't want to always go, yes, that's genuine. Yes, that's... Oh, in your heart, you want it to be. But to be truthful to it and to do it some real justice, the actual passing judgment on something like that, you need to be really reserved and hold back.
Okay.
And that's what I do anyway.
I'm going to have to see it now.
Okay, well, I'm looking for it. Hang on a minute.
I need to see.
I'm still trying to find this Black Knight.
Yes.
So the Black Knight is that satellite that's bouncing around the Earth at the moment, but nobody knows where it came from.
Yes.
Allegedly, it weighs 15 tons.
Allegedly?
Allegedly.
Okay.
It weighs 15 tons. Yeah,
it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, it's very heavy. We haven't been able to jettison anything that heavy into space yet. Yeah.
So how did it get there? That's interesting, though.
So they decoded the Black Knight, allegedly decoded it.
That's interesting, though. It's interesting that I find the interesting thing is you will find a lot of different vids on it. You'll find a lot of different photographs of it, including some NASA streams about this thing tumbling through space as they work on the so-called space shuttles and the International Space Station. But the decoding of it that you were talking about, we found a website that has a little bit of a message from the Black Knight satellites, and it says the message it transmits is the following. It says, "Start here. Our home is Epsilon Bootis, which is a double star. We live on the 6th planet of 7. Check that 6th of 7, counting outward from the sun, which is the larger of the two. Our 6th planet has 1 moon. Our 4th planet has 3. Our 1st and 3rd planets each have 1. Our probe is in the orbit of your moon. This updates the position of Arcturus shown on our maps."
And technically anybody should be able to look that up.
Look for Epsilon Bootis, which is a double star. Look for all these exoplanets that are now being found. I'll bet you NASA knows exactly what's going on with this thing. Based upon all these exoplanets being found, counting outwards from the sun, which is the larger of the two. Our 6th planet has 1 moon, our 4th planet has 3.
Andrew Basiago.
Basiago, yes.
Basiago, yes. Andrew Basiago.
Yeah.
Yes. Stargates.
Yes.
Andrew Basiago is allegedly running for president of the United States this year.
A lot of people are.
I know there's a lot of candidates.
Yes.
A lot of candidates. He doesn't have the pull or the security predetermined decision, everything laid out for him like Hillary has.
Hillary.
But Andrew Basiago.
Yes.
Stargates to the moon. I just mentioned his name because that's somebody else. If you're listening tonight and we're name dropping, that's all we're doing tonight is name dropping. Don't be lazy. Just Google along with us.
Google along with us, but the thing about Basiago is that he was in a program along the lines of the Montauk experiment.
Project Pegasus. Yes.
And allegedly a certain president of the United States was in that same program.
From Indonesia at the time.
Yes, exactly.
Barry Soteros.
Yes.
Was his name.
Yes, it was.
And if you don't know who Barry Soteros is, that is Barack Obama's legal birth name. Barry Soteros from the island of Indonesia.
That's it. And according to Andrew Basiago, Obama did a lovely little trip to Mars at one point in time.
He was a part of the Project Pegasus jump room program. So that
was it.
DARPA again. DARPA back in the early. What we're talking about?
They were kids, so the 60s, the 70s, and going into the 80s.
Yeah. So DARPA had their hands all over this at the time. So allegedly, it was part of their Stargate jump room program. So allegedly, once again, Barry Soteros took a jump, and he had a lot of ongoing missions.
Yes.
With, Andrew Basiago. So yeah, Barack Obama
was involved in that as well.
And he's got photos of him too.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to see them.
No, he's shown them before. I
know he's shown some photographs of a jump that he did to The Gettysburg Address.
Yes. Yes, that was when he was a little boy holding a pair of shoes or something, wasn't he?
Young man doing that, and they had pictures of that and all that kind of stuff. But I've been seeing a lot of that, and there's somebody I want to try to get on this show that has done a doco on the Montauk experiment.
Okay.
And I'm working on that right now, but if we can get him on, it would be very interesting. He would be a very interesting person to talk to about what happened, because a lot of this ties into other programs as well.
Oh, Al Bielek.
As a matter of fact, in the doco that this person made, Al Bielek is one of the people he talked to.
Okay.
So it would be really interesting to get a person like that on and to see, and to look at the doco, and then we can possibly put it up on the Facebook page and our website, which will be coming forthwith. But yeah, Black Knight satellite, all those kinds of things just fascinate us, fascinate me especially, and I know they fascinate you as well. And I think there's a lot more information that's going to start coming out that people are going to be really shocked by, but I think what's going to happen is most people will just deny it.
DARPA, Cern, earthquakes, torsion fields, Black Knight, Andrew Basiago, Barry Soteros, any other people you want to talk about?
Oh, good Lord. There's so many out there that we can actually bring up, but it's just a fascinating study, and I think most people, it would behoove you to get out there and to really start looking into what is actually going on out there.
Hollow moon.
Yeah. Hollow moon, ringing moon, hollow earth.
Stargates. Hollow earth, yeah.
Internal suns.
Internal suns.
Shambhala. What's going on in the Gobi Desert?
What's going on in the Gobi Desert?
Oh, they're finding all kinds of goodies out there these days. That'll be a whole nother show, actually.
We're talking archaeological digs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
And there's a reason why China is trying to reclaim the South China Sea and start building all these little archipelagos and islands out there and doing their thing, and it's not just for military purposes.
Oh, well, let's check back after Nibiru passes by and we get the 600-foot waves. Let's see how those archipelagos hold up.
Well, this is the whole thing with everything in that area, especially around what they found in Japan off Okinawa and all these different structures they found underwater. This is what tends to happen. I think most of our planet's history, the further down in the oceans you go, you'll start finding all kinds of interesting archaeological artifacts.
Atlantis.
That too.
Atlantis was a land-born...
That went underneath.
That went underneath.
Yeah, but according to certain people we've interviewed on this show, you can find Atlantis directly under Saudi Arabia. I'm not kidding. That's where it is. And they have found 1,800 structures in the desert that can prove it.
Wow. That's very, very cool.
I think so. Anyway, folks, that's all we have time for this week. We like waxing philosophic every now and again, but we will come back in the next few weeks with a few different guests for you and continue the journey toward the truth beyond just what mundane science decides to tell you.
And can I ask everybody this week, if you do happen to look up in the sky and you see very clearly a chemtrail, you can't mistake it. It's a long white streak up in the sky. It looks like a sign rider's just dumped all his fuel. Call your local member of parliament or email them and ask them to please explain.
Ask them to please explain.
Say, what is this doing in the air above your electorate?
Why is it there? And the other thing you can do, take a picture of it and put it up on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
We'll keep it going for you, because the fact of the matter is the next time we get a chance, we're going to ask the people in our electorate, because they were over Mornington and Frankston and all different kinds of areas on the peninsula. So we want to know what the heck is going on.
Be good, everybody.
Take care. We'll catch you next week for another edition of Beyond 3D.
Bye-bye.
Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.